Hello, beautiful people. How are you today? I'm a bit tired, a bit just out of it, but I really need to do this video because of the experience that I just went through. I'm here with Laurel Aston again, and we're going to do an expose about South Padre Island, S.P.I, and what we found out about this place, and what I've been through, and what she has been fortunate enough to learn about the island. And I would humbly like to thank everyone for sharing. The last two videos were already about 800 on 800 views, and over 2,000 on the last one we did about a month ago. So I would just like to humbly thank everybody, and also I would like to humbly thank everybody for calling the hospital when I was locked up, calling the police station when I was locked up, and all of the ludicrous things they were trying to do. And I would like to humbly thank Laurel for taking over the website and pretty much running it, and letting everyone know what these doctors and police and corrupt individuals were trying to do to me. I would just like to let you know this isn't the first time they've tried to do this. This is actually the 4th time in the last year and a half that I've been through similar situations. So I would first like to start out about Laurel and her telling you what she's found out trying to look for work visiting on the island. She was really the one that actually really started to really expose a lot of things, and which led me to open my eyes to see what's really going on the island and how corrupt it really is. So Laurel, I'd like to thank you for joining me again, and could you share with the public anything you would like to first say to anyone, and then go into what you found out about South Padre Island, looking for work while you were visiting the island and figuring out if you were going to stay or just visit. And it actually turned into a kind of a nightmare for me, and actually you too, because of the situation we're both in, and both of us are targeted individuals. So again, everyone, welcome Laurel Aston, and here she is.
Hi. Well, I'm just happy that you made it out. That was pretty harrowing, and there were some really outrageous and pretty scary things happening at the hands of this dirty doctor, Dr. Saeed Zaidi. And in my past interviews and in the Supreme Court, I have exposed this medical cult, mafia, who are basically for hire. So I was very concerned about you, and I'm very glad that you made it out okay. When I came to visit you on South Padre Island, I did look for work. I thought I might stay for a while. And I apparently came during the slow season, but there was a very strange vibe out here in S.P.I. Having grown up around occultists, grown up around occultists heavily involved with their cult activity, I know that this strange vibe. First of all, it's a very small Masonic, close-knit Masonic community. When you get here, there is the feel that everyone knows each other, and you're not getting anywhere unless you're one of them. When I tried looking for work, a few things that I tried, the Chamber of Commerce, and I was told repeatedly that nobody did business with anybody out here who wasn't in the Chamber of Commerce. But it's also very clear that people have tried to get in and not succeeded because they weren't one of them. I remember just a very bizarre experience going to a print shop to have cards made and meeting some people from McAlester, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is completely under Illuminati control. McAlester is where a lot of high-level occultists meet for rituals. When I was a child, I was actually held by two people in Naval Intel CIA, Wiley Duke Nichols and Carol Jean Starkey Nichols. They were under police investigation and faced charges. Members of the NYPD told me that they did go to jail for child trafficking. They posed as my parents with biological parents with a forged birth certificate. I was held by them in Oklahoma when I was being utilized by the Pentagon, Tinkerfield Air Force Base in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and I was taken to McAlester, Oklahoma over the years repeatedly for these satanic rituals in which George Bush and Pavarotti, the Pope, Bill Clinton, some of the richest and most powerful politicians, government figureheads, opera singers, entertainers, Hollywood producers, they all go to these rituals. There are two Italian restaurants. Now, first of all, what people need to realize about McAlester is it is a Masonic town. Like South Padre Island, McAlester is a Masonic town. It's a one-horse, blink and you miss it kind of little town. Everybody knows each other. It's very closed. Outsiders are not welcome or allowed in. They get rid of outsiders very quickly there. And there are two little Italian restaurants very connected to the Vatican and the P2 Lodge in this little one-horse town in Oklahoma in the middle of nowhere. And there are autographed pictures of George Bush, the Pope, Pavarotti, Bill Clinton hanging up in Krebs, and the other Italian restaurant. I can't think of the name of it right now. This little area in Oklahoma has been known for occult activity for a very long time. This was where there's a long occult history going back 200-300 years. So I met people running a print shop in South Padre Island from McAlester, and I just wanted to get cards printed up, and they looked at me strange and asked me, well, how did you get here? And this is sort of an out-of-the-way destination, and nobody really comes to South Padre Island to just vacation unless you have friends and family here. They asked me questions as if I were being interrogated by police. And they said, we don't like outsiders. They come in and they want to change things. And I said, well, I just want a little bit of a vacation. I don't want to change anything. And they said, well, we might just let you stay. But their energy and the questions they asked me were so personal, and it was really like being interrogated by the police. And it's an older couple. The older man was wearing an Oklahoma University T-shirt, and I said, so you're from Oklahoma? And they said, yeah, we're from McAlester. And I have to say, they were tough. They had a very tough look about them. I actually came back from that experience and told Zach, I just had a really disturbing experience, and I really think these people are killers. They're from McAlester. McAlester is a closed community. If you're not a Freemason and involved with the occult, you will be run out of that little tiny town really fast. So the fact that they were born and raised there, and their children and grandchildren are there, and the fact that they're trying now, they say, to sell their business and go back to McAllister, I know what they are and what they're a part of. While looking for a job, I was just getting a strange feeling. I met a Dolores Ferrantino. She asked me questions as if I were applying for some high-level government job, and told me that I would require a full background check, fingerprinting, and I thought, well, isn't this bizarre for a massage job?
Well, what the other place, what was the print shop called? The print shop that you were just talking about?
Office and Supply Print Shop on Padre Boulevard, South Padre Island.
And Dolores Ferrantino is, what was the name of her place? S.P.I Massage, right? Mm-hmm. South Padre Island Massage? Okay, thanks. I just wanted to clarify that.
Well, Dolores Ferrantino, like this couple running the print shop, asked me personal questions, really crossed the line, asked me questions that you wouldn't ask somebody unless you've known them a while. She told me I'd have to submit to a full background check and fingerprinting. I found this very bizarre. I don't know who does this for a massage job. I basically started to get the feeling that, well, and walking around Padre Boulevard, the Masonic symbolism and the occult satanic symbolism and the black skull and bones flags are everywhere. Confederate flags. I hate to say it, but this is an incredibly racist place, and Freemasons are racist. So I was getting the feeling very quickly that I needed to get out of here, that this was not the place for me, and that I had really stumbled onto another closed little Masonic occult community. I did meet the owners of the surf shop that caused you the problems, Zach. I met Belinda Garcia and her husband, Vanunu. First of all, I don't believe they are Israeli. I think they may have lived there, but when I was in the surf shop, they were playing only Turkish music. And they are Turkish and spent time in Israel. They're Freemasons. You cannot be a Freemason and be a Christian. You cannot be a Freemason and be a Jew. You cannot be a Freemason and be a Muslim. They have infiltrated all religious groups, but these people are Freemasons. The idea that they are Jewish or Israeli is ludicrous.
Well, you got to remember, the Nazis set up Israel, and Hitler himself was of the Ashkenazi Nazi bloodline. The word Nazi comes from Ashkenazi. People think it stands for National Socialist Party in German, but that's a lie. Hitler, the first town that he attacked when he came to power was his grandmother's town, and that was to hide the fact that she was an Ashkenazi Jew. And Hitler is actually a Rothschild. And so when you start to understand who the Zionists really are and who put Israel into power, and even today you have people in Israel calling the Zionists Nazis because the real Hebrews know the difference and know the truth, and very much so even today. And you can see this prevalent on the island and what is unfolding. But go ahead, Laura.
Well, so I was in the surf shop, I met Belinda Garcia, and again, I was questioned as if I were a criminal, and I was being questioned, and I was under interrogation by police. Again, the suspicion and looking at me sideways, and, well, how would you even know about this place? And, you know, really nobody comes to South Padre Island without friends and family, so how did you come to arrive here? Then, interestingly, I said, well, my parents were in the military, and I spent some of my childhood on Padre Island. in Corpus Christi. Now, Padre Island, Corpus Christi, is home to the U.S. Naval CIA base, which is heavily involved in drug running, child trafficking, human slavery, human mind control experiments, and horrific medical experiments, including surgeries, on human beings and children that have been abducted from all over the world and trafficked in through the U.S. Naval CIA base in Corpus Christi, Padre Island. South Padre Island is just an extension of that. So the minute I said my parents were military and I lived on Padre Island as a kid, she asked me, well, oh really? Well, what school did you go to? I said Flower Bluff Elementary. She asked me more questions. I answered them correctly. When she realized that I really had grown up on lived on Padre Island, it was as if I said, open sesame. And then all of a sudden she said, well, I don't know how long you're going to be here, but we will certainly keep you going. I'll get a massage from you this Friday, and I'll introduce you to all my friends. They're very wealthy, they're very generous, all of her girlfriends. And we'll all get massages from you, and we'll definitely keep you going while you're here, as if they had an obligation to keep me going. One thing I want to say is that with the Freemasons, they do all work with, they are occultists, they all work with the CIA, which is an occult organization. They keep each other going to avoid paper trails. Charities are used as a way to launder money and pay somebody off to avoid paper trails, and they will keep each other going so that nobody has to be paid and there's a paper trail. She wanted to start introducing me to all her girlfriends who would all get massages from me and keep me going, and she acted as if she had an obligation to do this, and then I got what was going on right away. I met her husband. I met another guy there who is actually, they're Turkish and maybe spent some time in Israel, but they're not Israeli. And I knew that, despite the fact that people were saying they were Israeli because of all the Turkish music playing in the surf shop. And I said, but that's Turkish. And they said, yeah, we're actually from Turkey. We lived in Israel. And then another man working with Belinda Garcia was just unbelievably sleazy, asked me a lot of questions, and then said to me, so what did you do to your face? What happened to your face? What'd you do to your mouth? And I told Zach, I said, what normal person speaks to someone that way?
And you said
it's not as if I had plastic surgery.
And the mark on your hand that you have that they put on sex trafficking victims.
Well, not just sex trafficking victims. Actually, this is not on sex trafficking victims. This is on people who serve in the military who are under mind control. The chip that they put on the right hand between the index and middle finger that you see on the internet, I have the scar there, and that tells anybody who I am. Occultists know about this. And I did see him looking at my hand, and then the way he proceeded to speak to me, no normal person would speak that way to anyone. However, constant, unrelenting mental and verbal abuse is part of mind control, and it's part of their training. The way he spoke to me was so abnormal, and I did tell Zach about it. These occultists, these Freemasons, have an air about them. They are tough, hard, cold, sleazy. They can't even always cover what they are. But certainly the interrogation, and with Dolores Ferrantino, the military-style background check and fingerprinting, and that is actually truly bizarre unless you realize that it's a front, and a front for espionage, probably a front for, absolutely a front for sex. Requiring fingerprinting and a government-style background check for what I found out about her organization is really bizarre. I mean, the word is among legitimate business owners that Dolores Ferrantino is a flake. She typically either doesn't show up or hires people that don't know what they're doing to such an extent that sometimes people find it hard to believe that these are licensed massage therapists.
How long has she been in?
Almost 30 years. That the girls are unexperienced, not very good at what they do, a lot of them, and that they were all doing extras. So you're going to tell me that you require fingerprinting and a government-style background check for that?
Well, how did you find out that her business, without a doubt, is offering happy endings? Because you told me when you went over to Port Isabella.
Well, I was interviewing at legitimate places in Brownsville and Port Isabel, and they asked me where I lived, and I said, I'm staying on the island right now, South Padre Island, and they were looking at me kind of funny, and they looked at my resume. I did a demo, and they said, well, you seem very educated and professional, you're very good at what you do, but I heard this a few times, I don't like to hire girls from the island. And so who have you worked for out there? And I said, well, no one. I've been here 1 week. I'm interviewing. I haven't worked anywhere yet. And that's when an older, very conservative Mexican lady, I said, well, I had interviewed with Dolores Ferrantino, and she trusted me enough to open up and told me that she found Dolores Ferrantino to be bizarre, flaky, and that her girls were all doing happy endings and or actual sex. And which of course made the military-style government background check and fingerprinting even more bizarre, considering it was a front. Repeatedly, again and again, I found out that legitimate business owners don't like therapists from South Padre Island because they're all typically using it as a cover for sex and happy endings. I also heard, the same conservative lady said to me, do you know where you're staying? It's like Sodom and Gomorrah. It's all drugs, sex clubs, people who come out to be a part of these sex clubs, which orgies are part of these free Masonic occult rituals. And that the cartel pretty much owned over 90% of South Padre Island and controlled everything. That there was a lot of drug running, a lot of crime, and that the police were completely corrupt, and that cartel members even had gang members on the force carrying badges for inside information. So that's how I kind of found out what was going on here. There's absolutely not one doubt in my mind that South Padre Island is a closed Masonic community. Everything is very controlled. The cartel is the idea that this cartel of drug dealers from Mexico came over and took over Texas and America is ludicrous. The cartel works as a front for the CIA. I believe they're independent in Mexico, but I also believe that especially in Texas and in certain operations, they work for the CIA as a front. And they work with the U.S. military intelligence, CIA. The idea that they are, laundering this kind of money and running these kind of drugs in America, and America with their Department of Homeland Security and their police officers are just, can't shut them down, is ludicrous. The cartel is a front. I was held as a child, a victim of child trafficking and human slavery, as a child soldier and as a disposable child soldier, assassin, operative. And the U.S. military, intelligence, CIA, work with gangs and cartels, especially the Gulf Cartel, as a front. But they're the ones behind it.
Wow. That's
I would like to add too, I worked with a nurse who worked at the Brownsville Hospital 17 years, and she told me that the Brownsville Hospital was busted last year for child trafficking, and that hospital staff, nurses, I think even a couple of doctors were implicated, were fabricating birth certificates for Mexican babies. this goes way beyond trying to legalize them or get them benefits or sell them to a barren couple. No, no, no. As you can see from my case, with my fabricated birth certificate, I was given to violent, insane pedophiles in the Navy Intel CIA, and you know, it wasn't because they were a barren couple. I mean, it's a criminal. It's part of a crime ring. It has to do with falsely documenting children that can be given to criminals as if they were their biological parents. So that's what that's all about. And I know that we also have found out, Zach, that large numbers of children are coming into the coroner's office in Brownsville with their little bodies cut up and their organs cut out. Some of this is organ sales, and some of this, the bodies are sacrificially cut up in a certain way, and the organs are cut out during satanic rituals. Now I know now that there are honest police and sheriffs out there listening and following this, and I think that you know that there are just way too many of these little children with their bodies cut up and their organs cut out to think that this is just organ sale, or that this is a very sophisticated, powerful, scary crime ring. I have goosebumps because I've seen it done, and the children are typically raped and sodomized and tortured before they're cut up and their organs cut out in satanic rituals. So it's just horrifying. It's so awful what they do to these kids. Zach, you and I, this is why we do what we do, because no little child deserves to die that way, not even one, let alone the staggering numbers that are involved.
Yeah, well, we actually have I got this information that she's talking about the kids and the bodies being mutilated from a sheriff. And I would like to thank that sheriff, because she opened up to me after my court date, after being locked up and incarcerated for 15 days due to what I was exposing in South Padre Island. Thank you to the corrupt police. So you've heard Laurel and what she has said and what she found out, and of course she had been telling me, and I'm living here and I have family from Harlingen. I used to live in Harlingen, Texas as a child for several years. I have a very close friend of mine who I grew up with who just moved back to Houston, but her husband's family lives in Harlingen. I have a lot of people that I really strongly care about out here. So after Laurel had started finding out what she did, and everybody trying to figure out if she was a prostitute or a massage therapist, it was just ridiculous. Because I
said I was living on South Padre Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is just absolutely absurd how things go in this situation. And honestly, I haven't seen anything like this since Romania, because in Romania everybody knows about the cartel. Everybody knows that the cartel traffics women and children, and the police are corrupt, and everybody knows.
The girls live in fear in Romania.
Yeah, and everybody knows Nicu, who is the head of the cartel. He also owns Fashion TV, Romania, Club Space Music Ibiza. He is nicknamed the King of Spain, according to the Spanish authorities and Romanian authorities, for increasing the trafficking of women and children tenfold into Spain. I personally went up against him with a video camera in Romania after my fiance came up missing, and I have not looked back. So when I see injustice going on and absolutely just mind-boggling corruption, I get my camera, I go out on the street, and I talk about what I see, and this is what ended me up in jail. And I want people to understand that.
Well, I'd like to add something. It is hard to believe that things could be that corrupt. Again, like I said, the cartel fronts for the U.S. Navy, U.S. military, CIA. It is as prevalent as it is because they are preying on the Hispanic community. They're preying on people that have come over here and may be legal, but not speak English and not know the laws of this country and not know their rights. They don't have resources to fight. They're also preying on the illegals who basically have no rights. And they're preying on women and children. And when they get their hands into a young girl, they will breed her, and they can get, 15, 16, 17 kids out of a girl with fertility drugs. Probably just like Al-Qaeda, a lot of the Gulf Cartel are mind control because the U.S. Navy, U.S. military, CIA prey heavily on the Mexican, especially, community. And I watched Wiley Duke Nichols and his partner Abernathy do this in Corpus Christi through the naval through the naval center there in Corpus Christi. They ran the brig. I saw what goes on. So part of the problem here is that you have a very powerful entity, the U.S. Navy, U.S. military, CIA. They have basically empowered the Gulf Cartel. They run the police, the judges, the constables. They control the hospital. They have dirty doctors. And we all know what was happening in Brownsville with the forging the birth certificates for the babies. And this is what the people that have come over here illegally with no documentation and no English and basically no rights are up against. It's a slaughter.
Okay, well, like I was saying, I found out about the corruption on the island because of what Laurel was going through looking for a job. And according to her, Belinda Garcia, who also owns Surf's Up, because we're recording
They
this,
own all of the surf shops.
We're recording this from Park Lane. And they own all the surf shops on the island. One of the things I would like to point out is one of the things that I found so terribly strange is I remember the island when I came here as a kid, and the island didn't have surf shops that are larger than grocery stores. And there's at least 5 to 8 of them on the strip, on the main strip of South Padre Island. This is money laundering, obviously.
Well, they sit empty all day, no business.
They are huge. I've been on many islands and beaches. Surf shops are usually small and to a select group of people because not everyone surfs. So also I'd like people to understand there's only one grocery store on this island, and all of these huge surf shops that are bigger than the one grocery store on the island, and it is owned by the rich Israeli man. What was his name?
Vanunu.
Vanunu.
But he's not Israeli. The man is Turkish.
Well,
And he admitted that, because I said, that is not Israeli music you're playing, that's Tarkan, the #1 singer in Turkey, and all of the music playing is Turkish. And he's like, well, actually we're Turkish and we lived in Israel. They're not Israeli.
Okay, well, from what I found
Turkish Freemasons.
from what I found out, he's Israeli, and everyone on the island thinks that a rich Jewish guy owns all the property and
he's a Freemason, not
and
Jewish.
bought all the property. Well, this is what I found out.
Right.
Okay,
that's his front.
So
okay.
the people need to understand that there are Hebrews, real Hebrews like me, and then there are the Zionist, Ashkenazi, Nazi, fake Jews. But for the most part, everyone thinks that they are Jews. They live in Israel. There's a conflict going on in Israel right now. The people that run Israel are the Zionist, Ashkenazi Nazis. And the Hebrews know this. So this is prevalent, what is going on the island. It's the same thing. So one of the things I want people to understand is that I was arrested exposing what I saw in the windows of the surf shop named Atlantis. You can see the video, you can see the other videos, I will make them public. Now, this is supposed to be a quote-unquote Israeli Hebrew guy, according to all the other people that I talked to on the island, bus drivers,
yeah, he's not.
Other people. Okay, well,
he's not.
He goes to that synagogue that is next to Atlantis, that is a synagogue, and these people are acting like Jews. These are Zionists. It's what they do.
Right.
Okay.
They're
So anyway, I want people to understand that this is how I myself wanted to give them kind of a test to see who they were. I mean, it was obvious who they are and what they are, but people really don't understand Operation Paperclip and how the CIA brought all these Nazis over to America, and they started operating and taking women and children, horrific things, and continuing what the Nazis were doing under the full disclosure of the U.S. government and the CIA. And another thing that people need to understand is that the Skull and Bones, which is a Masonic sect, and the reason why they use the Skull and Bones is because they were pirates, they were heroin smugglers. This is how they started out. The Skull and Bones started the CIA. So then when you start to understand, Prescott Bush got caught sending millions and millions of dollars to the Nazi party, and then they brought these evil motherfuckers over to America, and now this is what is going on. And people need to understand that once you start to see...
I would like to say there, he is absolutely correct. This is not what he's just read in books. Carol Jean Starkey Nichols, the woman who posed as my biological mother, she is a violent, insane pedophile, occultist, is a German Nazi. She is platinum blonde-haired, blue-eyed, descendant of the German Nazis that were relocated into the U.S. military CIA, and her entire family, Richard Starkey, DJ Starkey, Betty Starkey, Donna Faye Starkey Sudduth, I could go on and on, all worked for the Pentagon or were in the military and working for Tinkerfield Air Force Base. They were all high-level Freemasons. They all spoke German, and they were all heavily involved in the occult and child trafficking, human slavery, brainwashing, prostitution of brainwashed, mind-controlled sex slaves. This is not what we're reading about on the internet. I lived it, and I lived it at the hands of German Nazi descendants who are the descendants of the Nazis that were brought over here, given new faces, new identities, and continue to work and continue their occult Nazi project with the U.S. military CIA.
And
I have also, I would like to say also, that having grown up in this, they never expected me to escape. They don't expect any of the slaves to remember anything, because our memories are erased with electric shock, torture, and radiation. In some cases, even brain surgery. They don't expect us to remember. I was utilized in Israel, and I have been both an Israeli Jew and a Palestinian. And it is the Zionists, and it's George Bush and Henry Kissinger and Cheney and people like Carol Jean Starkey Nichols and Wiley Duke Nichols, who controlled puppets like the one I was. I was a child soldier, and I was both an Israeli Jew and a Palestinian. And they're basically creating this situation in Israel with puppets under mind control, posing as Palestinians to do things that create real hatred among real Jews in Israel. And they're controlling puppets who really want to just blow the situation up and get rid of all real Jews. I mean, the people in power really, a lot of the people in power over there, they're not real. There's a genocide going on of Palestinians and horrific crimes. What the U.S. military, CIA, who are an occult Nazi organization, are planning to do is they have been perpetrating that, blowing it up, helping with that situation, stirring trouble up with their puppets, posing as Israeli Jews, posing as Palestinians. There's no freedom over there, so you know. I mean, the idea that Palestinians could get out and bomb things is kind of ludicrous, because you have to be there to understand the level of security that there is. And then they're planning to release what's happening to the Palestinians and say, well, the Israeli Jews did this as an excuse to go in as humanitarians and help the Palestinians and wipe out all Israeli Jews. It was going, the genocide and the horrific torture and abuse of Palestinians at the hands of this Nazi organization was going to be exposed to the world as a way to pin it all on real Jews living in Israel and start the next Holocaust.
Yeah, people really, they can't wrap their heads around how the Ashkenazi Nazis, which Hitler, Rothschilds, Windsors, they're all of Ashkenazi bloodlines leading back to the Vikings, Khazars, and then the Canaanites, and Canaanites back to Cain, the first murdering son. They pride themselves on this bloodline. So when you look at actually what the Nazis did via the Vril Society, which the Vril Society is very real. This is why America is filled with underground bases. The Vril Society was all about the underworld. When you start to understand what they really did, you have the Ashkenazi, Nazi, Canaanite, Khazar, Freemasonic, Satanic pedophiles that went around killing all of the sovereign Hebrews. And they knew what they were doing. And this is still going on today. This is my bloodline. I descend from the Olmec Blackfoot, American Aboriginals. We were the first people on this land. So the CIA brought the Nazis over here to continue doing what they were doing, but to start hunting, killing, targeting, experimenting on us, soft kill, you name it, they've done it and they're doing it. So what I did to get arrested was absolutely nothing. They trumped up charges. The Israeli gentleman that came at me in an Audi and the other Israeli gentleman that came out of the synagogue when I was sitting across the street recording my video after I had exposed Atlantis. Is another huge surf shop on the strip. It has Confederate flags hanging in the front of the building.
And
it has Skull and Bones flags hanging in the window. And the way they're set up, it is like masonry. And they are basically, you know, telling people, you know, we're here, we're in control, this is our island.
Yeah.
And this is right up the street from a synagogue. Now, honestly, these so-called Jews, which they are not, should not have had a problem with what I was saying, but the fact that I was exposing, oh, you guys have Confederate flags
Black Skull and Bones
on a building that is owned by a so-called Israeli Jew,
which he is not.
It just didn't make any sense. So, and here's your synagogue right here. And to prove my point even further is once you see the video, you will see that this Israeli guy comes up to me and he's driving an Audi. Real Hebrews don't drive Audis.
Or Mercedes.
Audi is Nazi symbolism, okay? Mercedes, Nazis. BMW, they built bombs to drop on innocent Hebrews and the world. Real Hebrews know this. We would not touch these things to save our lives. But here is an Israeli comes up to me driving an Audi. So he calls the police. He calls me anti-Semitic, and I tell him I'm Hebrew, and they laugh at me. So then, after they called the police, I start to walk off. This is all on the video. So the police catch up with me at the side of AT&T, which I'd like to iterate. AT&T is another CIA subsidiary company and has been for a very long time.
That's right.
So the police come up to me, and the Israeli comes when 3 other police cars come. And 3 of the cops go over and talk to the Israeli gentleman, while the female officer who you see on the tape is questioning me. They come over to me and tell me that they're charging me with hate crimes. And I said, hate crimes for what? For what I was doing over at the synagogue. And I said, what was I doing? And they wouldn't tell me. And I said, this is ludicrous. I take out my ID and I said, see, my middle name is Zacharias. It is spelled Z-A-C-C-H-E-U-S. It is a Hebrew name. My stage name is Zakaos, and that is why, because no one could ever spell my Hebrew name correctly. So this upset the officers. They go back over to the Israeli guys and they have another conversation.
Well, didn't the officers, we have no patient here by that name. We don't know who you're talking about. So they tried lying to us, and I said, look, I'm family. I know he's there. He's called me just 5 minutes ago. So what are you talking about? You don't know who he is, and he's not a patient there. So at one point, they were trying to just lie to people and tell everyone that Zach wasn't a patient at that hospital and they'd never heard of him. When in fact, people from all over the world, including the New York City Police Department, were calling off the hook to such an extent that they were just picking up the phone and hanging up on them. And or picking up and saying, I'm sorry, we have no idea what you're talking about, there's no patient here by that name, and hanging up.
One of the things that I also found out is when I was talking to Laurel, they were telling people that they had injected me and incapacitated me, all kinds of crazy, ludicrous stuff. And the fact of the matter is, they had not touched me when they were telling people this on the phone. And in fact, when this did happen,
wait, can I tell them what they told me?
When this did happen, this happened in a calm way. I didn't fight anybody. I let them inject me. And the only thing that I did do is I started emceeing in my room and started telling them who I was, who my family is, who Laurel is, what I do. I really let them know that they're not going to get away with this, and that I know people are calling the hospital and what they are doing and what they've told them. What were you saying, Laurel?
Oh, basically that was like 3 days later. It was very clear to Zach at that point that he was, well, Dr. Saeed Zaidi was making some very scary statements about what he intended to do to Zach. That he actually was going to file to hold him indefinitely, beginning with 90 days, and to forcefully inject him. As Zach had stated before, he had a pregnant fiancée, Mihaela, abducted in Romania and found a year later or something in Russia, decapitated, her arms cut off, and Zach's baby was cut out of her. I myself had been tortured and mutilated, and Zach was very worried about what was going to happen to me, because when he called, I told him, the South Padre Island Police Department are coming here in gangs, front and back, banging on the doors and windows so loud I was convinced that they were breaking in. He was worried about what was going to happen to me, because he was talking to some nurses in the hospital from Mexico who were telling him, look, the cartel run everything. Those are not honest cops. This is how they operate. Those cops are dirty. So Zach was very concerned for my life. And what he did was tamper with the air conditioner that had already been broken by other patients, and they had thrown everybody else out of the hospital who tampered with the air conditioner, and instead chose to inject Zach with something that he told them could kill him. And in fact, they had to inject him with things to keep him, to stop the seizures. During the 3 days that he was there, he was, you know, very clearly not only coherent, but very intelligent, and what he was saying was making sense. And yet when people were calling the hospital, including myself, they were saying, well, he has been medicated, and we are going to try to do therapy, intense therapy on him so that he can safely be reintegrated into society.
So anyway, basically what I want people to understand is the staff at the hospital, they were really, really, really incredible, and basically they let me know that they knew that Dr. Zaidi was just full of it. I mean, in the words of one of the staff members, because they couldn't figure out, okay, they'd get off work, Christmas came, Christmas left, I was still there. New Year's came, they come back after New Year's, I'm still there. And so they're trying to figure out what's going on. You're not on medication. I didn't take any medication while I was there. The only medication that they put in my system was what was forcefully injected into me. And so the staff really started to see what was going on. Another thing Dr. Zaidi did do that made him really, 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 really apparent how shady he was he tells me that he needs to talk to these officers that brought me here, that could collaborate my story, etc. So I gave him permission to talk to Detective Hernandez and Detective Garcia. I gave him written permission. And so 2 days passed, and I asked him, did he talk to these officers? And he's like, oh, I'm waiting for Brigida. Brigida was my social worker. So I caught the doctor and Brigida in the tech nurse lounge that's in the center of the facility. And Brigida is walking towards me, and Dr. Zaidi is in the tech nurse office, which they're pretty much just right around the corner from each other. So I asked her, did she call the police, South Padre Island police? And she said, oh no, you didn't sign the piece of paper to give me permission. I said, yes I did. I signed it like 3 days ago. And she said, really? I said, yeah. I said, didn't Dr. Zadie tell you? She's like, no. And the funny thing was Dr. Zadie was back off in the office. The staff saw everything. They saw me ask Dr. Zadie, and then they saw me talk to Brigida, and then Brigida walks around the corner, and here's Dr. Zadie in the office listening to the whole thing, and then they kind of go off into the corner and start whispering, like, yeah. So these are the things that happen in this hospital. Another thing I want people to understand is this is Bush's hospital, by the way. It's an old hospital that was closed down, and the Bushes bought it and reopened it, and it's also a facility where they are taking kids.
Well, the entire area is Bush and Hunt country, and the Hunt family are very close to the Bushes. George Bush was my first programmer at the age of 4 when I was sold to the U.S. military and given to Wiley Duke Nichols and Carol Jean Starkey Nichols with a forged birth certificate. And my programming began, and programming is sleep deprivation, electric shock, mind control drugs, sexual humiliation, torture, rape, sodomy. I could go on. And my first programmer was George Bush, and Henry Kissinger played a role. But George Bush remained, at the forefront of the whole thing.
Well, on that note,
I would also like to say Brigida Henderson. She tried to act like, with Zach. She tried to say, well, listen, I just need to talk that she just needed to talk to me and verify his address, because the fact that he had not signed himself into their care, there was no police charge, no police hold. And actually, nobody was really willing to sign off. No police officer has signed off on saying that Zach was standing there saying "kill all Jews." So she said, if you have a place to stay, and I verify that, you can go home. Well, when Brigida Henderson got on the phone with me, I told Zach, this woman's shady. She asked me the same question 5 different ways, repeatedly, and it was very clear to me at the end of a 15-minute conversation, 20 minutes conversation. I said, Zach, she's not trying just to just verify your address. This woman was trying her best to catch me or you in a lie, and I could tell you by the nature of the questions she was asking, she is looking to discredit you. And this woman, dirty social workers are a very integral part of child trafficking and human mind-controlled slavery. There are so many dirty social workers out there that for me it's almost like, the corruption is on par with the corruption in the police department.
Yeah, well, this hospital, there was a lot of strange things happening, people. Like several of the patients complaining of, and I'm not kidding, their clothes being messed with, them waking up with things that they're wearing being moved and them not remembering.
Change of clothes.
Let you understand that these people are on psychotropic drugs, and the things you can do to people in that state is just really scary. And some of the people that I saw that were being prescribed by Dr. Zadie, they just weren't there because of his medication. They just were not there at all. And I want people to really understand what they were really trying to do to me and put me away. I'd also like to thank the staff at Valley Baptist for being really incredible and really true. And honestly, they have very, very, very little say-so who comes and goes there. The people that make all the money are the doctors. Every pill that they prescribe, the doctors get $5 to $7 kickback from the pharmaceuticals every year per pill. It's all a money racket. In this hospital, which is a private hospital, they get $1,000 a day per person. Now, I want you to understand that the state, if you don't have insurance, which a lot of the people that go to this hospital don't have insurance, it's a private hospital, Valley Baptist. The way they have it set up is like this. Tropical, Texas is the state hospital that works with this facility, and Tropical, Texas gets charged $1,000 per patient by Valley Baptist, and then Tropical charges the state, and the state pays them, and then Valley Baptist pays the hospital. So this is how Bush has things set up. Again, this is Nazism in America, continued experimentation on us, the American public. I'd like to, remind you that the Bushes, Prescott Bush, Nazis, gave millions to them. The Bushes are racist. There has been tons of evidence that Bush knew about 9/11. We're still in a 13-year war that has only escalated because of what Bush did. I want people to remember America didn't vote for Bush. It was the Bush that was sitting at the head of the Fox News network that started all the problems with, oh, who's our president? Well, all the other networks said it's Gore, but Fox said it was Bush. So then it took 3 to 4 days for everybody to recount the votes and have Jeb Bush of Florida fix the whole election, and then put the Nazi Bush as our president. And then on September 12th was the impeachment act of Bush. It was supposed to be filed with the Senate. The Senate was supposed to hear the environmentalists speak why we should impeach Bush, and it was supposed to be filed on September 12th. The Senate gave them that date. Also, the Black reparations lawsuit was supposed to be filed on September 15th, and these two things never happened because of 9/11. So now we're in a 13-year war, and this is what is going on in America. So back to Dr. Zaidi and trying to lock me up. Basically, to make a long story short, on the 15th day of me being in that hospital, I went to court. I met Jesus Garcia, told him what was going on. He saw that I was coherent. He saw that I was very intelligent. He saw that I was not psychopathic. He saw that my moods didn't need to be stabilized like Dr. Zaidi claims. And he said, just you talk to me like you talk to me now when we're in front of the judge, answer all the questions, and everything will be fine. So when I was called to go into the courtroom, I listened to Dr. Zaidi give a testimony about me and a bunch of basically lies, and how he couldn't collaborate with me, and how he couldn't basically confirm that I said the statement, and it was all hearsay. And this was all pointed out by Jesus Garcia, and then he continued to tell the judge that I was psychotic and I needed to be on antipsychotic medication, and that I needed to be on mood stabilizers and anything else which he wanted to provide or saw fit. And I told the judge that it is against my religious views to take psychotropic medication, because it is. I'm totally was raised on holistic medicine and holistic healing. And I also told the judge that I was forcefully medicated, and I explained to him why, the situation and what happened. And then I also told the judge when they asked, why was I arrested? How did this come about? Well, I told the judge the truth. I told the judge about Laurel and what she did, what she found out about South Padre, how they were looking at her like she had 4 heads, or because she was from South Padre Island, and that she was a whore, and blah, 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 when she's just looking for a job. So I told the judge basically what she explained to you at the beginning of the video. It's all on record. And that's that. The judge threw the case out of court. He basically told me I could go home. So here I am, 2 days later, making this video.
Well, I would like to say that Brigida Henderson, the social worker, called me from Valley Baptist and said, well, the Dean was released. She didn't say how or why. Zach was released. And do you feel safe with him returning to the house? Is he allowed to be there? And I said, yeah, he lives here. Yes, he's allowed to be here. Well, do you feel safe with him coming back? I said, yes, of course I do. And she said, well, we're going to put him in a cab, but that's a danger because he could jump out and run off. And I said, who do you think you're talking to? He is not incoherent. He is not going to jump out of a cab and run off. And I think that your entire organization is shady. At the very least, you've got a racket, $1,000 a day racket going on people. Everything you have done with him is beyond highly questionable and very illegal, and you're looking at a lawsuit. And she hung up on me.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked to find that out once I did come back here to the house. And I want people to understand that we are living in Park Lane. Right behind us is Surf's Up. It is owned by the rich Israeli, Turkish, whoever people, and we are consistently still, even now, being targeted with microwave weapons, consistently 247. So this is the situation that we are in. This is South Padre Island. This is Bush country. This is Nazi country. The island is very racist. I've met one other brother on the island, and he's told me about the experiences that he's had. He's been living here even longer than I have. The police now are consistently following us now. When I walk out my door, there's a cop, boom, right there.
But they're not, it's not like, hey, we're with you and we want to protect you, which I did see some of that. You know, I saw, of course, the NYPD, I have strong support there. And you know when they're in support of you. I did see some support, a minor support when we first got here, but honestly, yeah, since Zach was released, I have been followed by cops who were giving me dirty looks, and it wasn't like, hey, we want to protect you. It's more like, you know, they're looking at me like they're extremely angry and just hoping to be able to do something to me.
Oh, and also another thing that I wanted to document on this video is my landlord. And Laurel, can you tell the public about what the American flag means when it's in front of the apartments and stuff like that? And
well, it wasn't just in front of the apartment, yeah. When I lived in Los Angeles and I was held by my handlers in the CIA, Barry Gordon, Frank Harris, Ed Jones, Eddie Gay, who was played by Blair Underwood. We were moved, myself and other slaves were moved around to different apartments. And also Barry Gordon's partner was a rich Nazi. From his entire family is from Germany and Austria, and they actually have German and Austrian accents. Louis Wolf. Louis Wolf is a big realtor around Los Angeles, and together they either owned or took control of different buildings, condominiums, houses, sometimes by theft. They would get a lease, then they would falsify a lease and file the false lease that they had redone and doctored up. They would file that with the county as a legitimate document, and then they would make money on the property and use it in their underground slave network for, you know, a couple of years while it was tied up in court. This is also a tactic to avoid accountability, so that the people in this slave underground railroad network can't be sued or held accountable, because in a lot of cases these properties have actually been stolen. This was the case again and again in New York as well, with properties that were run by Steve Borak. He's mafia with the comic book industry, Heritage Antiques and Collectibles. His partner, Lee Sider of Sider Realty, Vicky Negron of Cochran Realty, American Dream Realty, 148-06 85th Avenue, and Jili Hung. I mean, these people were all using different names, and they were all part of it. What I saw again and again and again was that these properties that were typically had people fronting or were stolen had Masonic symbolism placed strategically somewhere, and a lot of times there was an American flag taped to the front window, and that way if you were trying to move slaves around, you knew where you could safely go and keep a slave, so that there would be no prying eyes, no one to testify, and no eyewitnesses, and no trouble. I saw this, you know, again in Los Angeles with Louis Wolf. He's a German Nazi and a big realtor involved with the CIA's human trafficking cartel, with the properties he had with Barry Gordon and Frank Harris, Blair Underwood, that were part of this slave underground railroad. I saw this all over New York with Lee Sider and Sider Realty and Steve Borak and Vicky Negron, whose husband was, by the way, ex-husband, 20 years senior New York City police detective. And then when we got to South Padre Island, I told Zach, I said, look, the woman that you're renting from is dirty. She's a part of this. And he's like, no. She seemed like a really nice lady. And then I tried to tell him, listen, the American flag, she has an American flag taped in the windows of all of her units. Every unit that this woman owns has an American flag taped in the window. That's strange. It's a pattern. It is a language. It is an unspoken way of communication. When you see this and you have a slave, you know to put them or steer them or railroad them into one of these properties where they can be contained and there will not be any prying eyes or eyewitnesses. When Zach was put in the hospital, he called her to tell her, listen, I'm in the hospital, I'll take care of the rent when I get out. Now she has a deposit.
Let me finish this, because I know it, because I did it. Basically,
let me finish. She started putting letters on the door saying that she wanted to immediately switch from the winter rate to a weekly summer rate, which was like 2.5 times higher, and that she was keeping the deposit towards this, plus she wanted extra money.
Yeah. One of the things I need people
Zach and his things out while he was in the hospital.
One of the things I want people to understand is the South Padre Island. How many times did they come here the first week I was arrested, Laurel?
The South Padre Island Police Department were here in gangs, front and back, kicking the doors and windows so hard. I actually posted on my webpage that I was terrified. I thought they were breaking in. They would attack the property, screaming police, open up, kicking the doors and windows. they would do this for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then an hour, 2 hours later, they would come back.
How many times did this happen?
All day for the first 3 days, and then they would come back a couple of times every morning up until only the last 2 or 3 days that you were in a week and a half.
Okay, and I want people to understand I was not charged with anything, no crime. And then when my landlord starts tripping about me not paying, and in actuality when she did this, it was before I was supposed to pay her the rent, which is on the 2nd, and she was doing this before the 2nd, claiming she was going out of town. Now, I want people to understand that she might be a part of this. Apparently, this island is filled with nothing but corrupt people. So I called her back, and she was yelling at me. Literally yelling at me, and I'm telling her I'm in the hospital, and legally they cannot kick you out of your place of residence if you're in a hospital, which I have legal documents proving that I was in the hospital. And I was telling her, I'm in the hospital, there's nothing I can do, please quit harassing me, quit sending people out to the house, quit putting notes on my door. It is harassment. I have legal rights. I told her I have a contract, and she said, oh, what contract? I said, the receipts from that I paid you, and she's like, that's not a contract. And I said, oh, but it is a contract. I have been here long enough for it to be a legal contract, and I also have the keys. That's a contract for you people that don't know that, and this really upset her. Also, I'd like to go on record to say that I told her that if you want me to get really upset, I will sue you, because this place has fungus damage and mold damage. It needs to be ripped out and re-gutted and redone. That should be the only reason that people should live in a place like this. But the fact of the matter is, they're renting these apartments out in South Padre. If you come here and you are in an apartment or hotel that does not have thermal windows, it has mold damage. If it has a funny smell in it, it's mold damage. Please, people, fortunately, I know how to take care of myself in this situation. I've dealt with it in Romania, which was a lot worse. But I told her that if you want me to sue you, you'll never rent this apartment again. And I have not heard from her, because this is the truth. It was just really strange that this woman is yelling at me in the hospital, and after all the things that took place with the police. And when the police were coming to my house, they weren't coming to evict me. That's not the process that you do to evict somebody. They were trying to scare Laurel into leaving my apartment and leaving me high and dry, or possibly her opening the door and then planting something in the apartment and saying whatever they want and taking her away, or doing whatever they want.
They were up to something.
So we don't know what was going on, but this is the case. We have very little money. We don't have money to move right now. I said,
we don't have money, Zach, because they keep harassing us, and every time we are able to get ahead a little bit and start thinking about what we're going to do next, something like this happens and sets us back 10 steps. There's a reason we don't have any money. I'm harassed at every job I get. My employers are harassed. You can see the kind of level of harassment we deal with. I could not leave the apartment while Zach was in the hospital, because in New York, you know, the NYPD now have charges against my 2 roommates, Barry Atunga and Jin Young Kim, who are CIA operatives. Barry Atunga had a fake ID. Everything about Jin Young Kim was a lie. And while they were living in my house, I was, I woke up with injected in my stomach, deathly ill, all 5 of my animals vomiting, And my dog died of poisoning at Brooklyn Cares, and the police did run tests on him, and the NYPD do believe that Papito died of poisoning. So I couldn't leave the house while Zach was in the hospital because I could come home to dead animals. And I've lost a number of animals this way. So it's like we are almost like we're under house arrest. I mean, we can't take a step anywhere, and we live under constant harassment and threats, and it's just we have no quality of life because of what they're doing to us.
So this is the situation of things right now. I am looking for a lawyer to sue South Padre Police Department. I'm looking for a lawyer to sue Valley Baptist because the judge spoke, and basically, you know, the Valley Baptist was trying to get me forcefully committed. They forcefully injected me. They were trying to forcefully have the judge to agree to let them do it again, and the judge threw the whole thing out of court, and I was let go. So that is grounds for a lawsuit. I lost 15 days of my life. Christmas gone, New Year's gone, my birthday gone. This is what we go through. No one pays us to do this. Our payment will be when we're gone from this earth, and these videos and what we did are left behind. So this will never happen again. For all the lost women and children that don't have voices, that are locked in underground bases, that are in brothels, being trafficked, the people you'll never hear from, we do this for them. Also, I'd like to say thank you to that sheriff out there that took me to the court, and I revealed to her who I was and what I do, and she told me a story about her friend who works at the children's coroner. It's horrific, the amount of children that come in and their organs are removed. I told her that I would like to talk to her, and if she wanted to do an anonymous article or whatever, I would love to do it. These are things that people need to know about that are going on in Brownsville. And you see all these cops like in South Padre, you know, driving back and forth when I'm just walking every 10 minutes. What are you doing? They're doing nothing but collecting a check and driving their car that has internet and computers, Wi-Fi, whatever in their car. They're not there to help you. They're not there to help the kids and children and the women, not go through the things Laurel went through, not go through the things that God never intended for us to go through, but nevertheless we do every day. And I still remain hopeful and faithful, and I strongly urge you people to do the same, and I humbly thank you for your time and support. Please share the video, all our videos. This one, please let the word out, because honestly, the word is all we have. Word of mouth is all we have. We're not cops. We don't have guns. We're not out to kill anybody or see any injustice, you know, not served. We want to see justice served to these people that literally destroy lives of innocent children. I mean, what can you say about someone that takes a child and literally just destroys their life, an innocent child? And they do this habitually. They are sadistic. They are satanic. Please study the Vril Society. Their whole belief system is based on children and harnessing the energy and the life force of a child. And They call it the vril. They believe this life force sustains their life and gives them energy, gives them power. The vril society was the society behind the Nazis. Prescott Bush gave the Nazis millions and millions of dollars. Research the Mina cartel. Watch the Mina cartel video, and it proves that Clinton and Bush are the cartel. The Iran-Contra scandal, it wasn't a scandal. It was a huge, massive CIA drug operation when they went into Latin America and literally wiped out complete towns to control the drug trade. This is what's going on in the Middle East right now with heroin. We've been over there 13 years. I've talked to soldiers. Yeah, we're over there protecting heroin. This is what they've said. This is what's going on. People need to wake up. The Skull and Bones was started as heroin smugglers. This is why their symbol is of the Skull and Bones pirates. Wake up, America. Wake up, world. I'd like to thank Laurel Aston for her time and support, and know that she is about as strong as they come, and what they did to this woman is just literally horrific, and they're continuing to do it to many, many, many children every day. So again, people, thank you for your time. Laurel, is there anything that you would like to add to this video before we sign out?
No, thank you for listening.
Have a beautiful day, people. Stay blessed. Peace.